This is INBrief with Shane Hurst, Managing Director and Senior Portfolio Manager at ClearBridge. Shane, first of all, thanks for attending the Inside Network's Investment Leaders Forum 2026 and participating in the way that you have. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
AI and decarbonisation are among some of the most prominent themes that are reshaping the real asset universe. What are some of the really compelling investment opportunities you and the team are citing right now?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, decarbonisation, the multi-trillion, multi-decade theme, which leads to renewables being rolled out, electrification of networks is a key theme we are seeing. CapEx supercycle is another one. When I started at ClearBridge, asset-based growth was anywhere from 0 to 2% per annum in most utilities. Now it's over 10% per annum. So that's seen a massive tailwind as utilities replace aging infrastructure. They realign supply chains and they kind of fix for physical asset risk. So winds, storms, wildfires, etc. AI and powering data growth, massive theme. Obviously, we know the demands that data centers have for power, and that's led to substantial tailwinds. But then there are a few emerging opportunities we are seeing. Firstly, private capital is one of those. So private capital is being far more relied on as a result of governments investing in defence and increasing their budgets in areas like defence globally. We've seen that recently. And so, well-capitalized companies and especially utilities with very strong balance sheets are able to supply a lot of the infrastructure spends that governments previously had. Look, the other point to make, and probably the last opportunity that we're seeing as a tailwind, is just the importance of real assets. Whether it is the physical scarcity of those assets or whether it's just the regulatory certainty you get with them, there's certainly the place to allocate to in this volatile environment.
Investors in most asset classes these days have a choice between passive and active.
Yeah.
In your firm's view, what are the attributes of active management at this point in the cycle that really propel it to the forefront?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really sector by sector and asset class by asset class. I would think comparing active versus passive. But for us, when we think about the indices that are out there, there are a few pitfalls. I think the first is, a lot of the indices invest in areas that have commodity price sensitivity, construction, advisory businesses, those types of things that we don't term as infrastructure and we think are far too volatile. Now, other areas where they don't have diversification globally are their regional allocations. So in the case of the indices like the FTSE, far too much exposure to North America and not enough to places like Europe. So we're able to get better diversification in terms of our bottom-up process. So what it boils down to is when we construct our universe and when a number of active managers that we know construct their universe, they can build it from the bottom up to get the best risk-adjusted returns to equity, not just those returns that are coming from indices.
For advisors who are trying to look through the noise of a very turbulent market and a lot of choice and a lot of sectoral, regional exposures, etc., what are the things you'd really like them to focus on with regard to infrastructure's next phase?
Yeah, look, I think, the first point clearly is infrastructure is an essential service. It's totally agnostic to the business cycle, and that's absolutely crucial in volatile environments. It's able to pass through inflation. So we talk about over 90% of our strategies able to directly or indirectly pass through inflation. Upside and downside beta capture is actually very favorable in the sector. So good downside protection, but yet also being able to generate some good upside. Obviously, those themes that we've talked about previously, whether it be AI, whether it be decarbonisation, the CapEx supercycle, are very potent themes. And then finally, it is just a great environment to invest in the space, whether it is fiscal stimulus that globally we are seeing in places like Europe and the US and in other places like emerging markets. Monetary policy, whilst there are very early signs of possible rate increases, Structurally, we are in more of a neutral type setting. And then you put on top of that just the benefit of investing in real assets and valuations. And we just think the environment is really attractive right now for the asset class.
Shane, space is going to come to people's minds when SpaceX launches possibly the biggest IPO ever. Can you see infrastructure and space ever becoming something that we accept as the norm, because infrastructure's changed so much in 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, look, space is, and certainly data centers in space has occupied the minds of many, many people. I think currently, financially, it doesn't make sense, but in a number of years, it will. So, some of the numbers that I've seen are really to launch, anything of size. It's about $2,000 a kilogram. Break even's like 100 to 200. So it really needs to drop in terms of the costs and launch costs, let alone the other elements. So whether it be the solar panels that need to sit on or other elements. So I think it could be a feature. Certainly Elon thinks it's going to be a feature, and I wouldn't want to bet against it.
Lastly, Shane, over your career, you must have had a lot of mentors and people you really respect to learn from. What is probably the best piece of leadership advice you've received?
Yeah, look, it's really to make decisions at the appropriate level, but yet connect with your team. So really what that's saying is empower decision-making throughout any organization or any team, but make sure there are clear channels for communication so you can really extract those synergies.
Shane Hurst from ClearBridge, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks very much, James.